Hi, I'm Todd Heidricken, General Manager of Clackamas Riverwater and Chair of the SDAO Awards Committee.
And I'm Frank Stratton, Executive Director of SDAO.
Welcome to the 2022 SDAO Awards Program presentation. While we had originally planned to host this ceremony in Eugene at the conference, we're grateful that we are still able to virtually come together to celebrate our special districts and the individuals that serve them.
That's a great way to look at it, Todd. Today we will be presenting 3 Special District Program Awards, 4 Service Awards, a Lifetime Achievement Award, and an Extraordinary SDAO Staff Service Award. We will also be honoring these districts and individuals at a one-day training and networking event later in the year. So when we announce that, be sure to save the date.
I'm really looking forward to that, Frank. I can't wait to get everyone together again. With that, let's get started. Our first award of the night is the Howard Turpenning Lifetime Achievement Award. This award is presented to an individual who has shown an outstanding commitment to Oregon's special districts and to SDAO. Through his work with SDAO, this individual has served countless districts and made a huge impact on the fire service throughout his work with Scappoose Rural Fire District, Washington County Fire District No. 1, and St. Helens Fire District. The recipient of this award is George Dunkel.
Special Districts Association of Oregon is proud to present the Howard Turpenning Lifetime Achievement Award to George Dunkel.
I've known George for nearly 30 years, starting when he was at Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, then Fire Chief at Columbia River Fire and Rescue, then SDAO Board President, and eventually the creator and manager of SDAO's Consulting Services Program. George fills the room everywhere he goes. It's impossible to be around him more than 5 minutes, no matter where you are in the country, that he doesn't run into someone that he knows. And when he does, he greets everyone in the same welcoming and warm way. George loves people and people love George because he has a way of making everyone feel valued. It's not an act. He's one of the most caring and welcoming individuals that I have ever met. It's impossible to put a value on what George has done for SDAO and the special districts we represent. From his leadership on our board to a staff consultant helping thousands of districts, you can't put a price on the wisdom he has shared and the integrity that he's brought to every interaction. Lucky for all of us, even though George is retired as a full-time SDAO employee, he's not going away and he's still working part-time on consulting projects and continued board training. I know my life is better because George is part of it, and I'm certain that many of you feel the same way. Thank you and congratulations, George.
So years ago, when we were creating this award, the Howard Turpenning Award, it was interesting how Frank Scott and Kevin and Mike and I were all in this room, and we were discussing the award and how Howard Turpenning was so involved and so passionate, and his whole life's work was for special districts benefit. And all I could think about during the entire program, the entire discussion, the entire idea of this was George Dunkel.
It was a privilege for me to have known and worked around Howard Turpenning and the founding fathers of this organization of SDAO, SDIS, and to learn about what their vision was at the time and how thrilled they were to where we were, when they no longer were real active with us, and where we are today.
George has never been a stranger. It's not that you don't know him, it's just that you don't know him yet. He's going to approach you, he's going to talk to you, and in 10 minutes, you'll be hugging. You'll be thanking him, you'll exchange phone numbers, all the things that you would do with your lost uncle you haven't seen in forever. But he's your new best friend. And that is George Dunkel to me.
Well, right now, George Dunkel flinched seeing me pop up on this video, which makes my day. I first met George Dunkel when I was hired to be an assistant chief at Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, and he and I were assistant chiefs together. And of course, George was the guy. He had come up in that department. He knew everybody, and everybody knew George, and he was a massive resource for me. But George was in operations, and I was somewhere else. And George had a partner at the time named Dave Fox, and Chief Snook didn't like the fact that George always saw the best in everybody and everything, and Fox hated everybody and everything. So Chief Snook put these two in the same office with a desk facing each other. And he told Dunkel, he said, you two are sharing an office until given any situation, you two come out of here with the same answer on any given situation. Well, that caused great frustration, and Fox, who was a neatnik and had a perfect desk, and George, whose desk looked like there'd been a nuclear explosion, set the stage for what became ripe opportunity for me. And one day, because I typically worked late and George didn't, I went in and started messing up Fox's desk, and I would put the remnants in George's trash can, and lo and behold, Fox blamed George. And that began to be the beginning of a lot of fun I'd have messing with George Dunkel.
Hi George, it's Betsy Johnson. I am actually speaking to you today from the Floyd G. McMullen Conference Room that is located right behind the Senate chambers. This room memorializes the firefighter who was regrettably, tragically killed when the first Capitol burned down in 1935. Floyd G. McMullen was a student at Willamette and was involved in trying to fight the fire at the Capitol. And so out of respect for your long career in firefighting, I put on a fireman's hat and I tip it to you. Congratulations on this significant award. Beyond being a fireman and a significant fireman, George started out as a volunteer, then moved to a professional firefighter status with what's now TVF&R. He came back and was the chief in St. Helens, credited with being the mediator, the negotiator, the cajoler, the cat herder that eventually consolidated fire districts throughout Columbia County. George went on to have an extraordinary career with Special Districts of Oregon. He is seen as the fixer, the guy that Special Districts Association of Oregon sends out when special districts need particular assistance in working through some of the thorny issues that they are called upon to deal with. George will be hanging up his active go bag and get in the car and go someplace career and becoming a senior consultant to that program. But I want to touch briefly on the George that I know, a volunteer, a communitarian, an unflappable supporter of all things charitable, good in the community, a supporter of youth athletics at all levels. He participates in the auctions in the school districts that help raise money for good causes and athletic equipment. George is constantly cheerful. I have yet to ever see him grumpy or mad. I have yet to have anybody ever say a bad word about him. George is the kind of guy that every community wants to be their neighbor, their friend, and their leader. And so it is with particular pleasure today that I extend my very best wishes to George Dunkel on the receipt of this prestigious award. And while I think he may be going in his mind to emeritus status, I'll bet you he's pushed back into service sooner rather than later, because George's toolbox of skills is unique. His ability to bring people together, second to none. Plus, he's just a damn good guy. So George, congratulations. My best wishes to you.
I can't think of a single person in my 40+ years in the Oregon Fire Service that deserves this more than George. He has put SDAO and fire districts on a whole nother plane. Everyone knows that George is a problem solver. He's there to help you. He understands fire chiefs. He understands elected officials. They ought to name this award the George Dunkel Lifetime Achievement Award, and I'm proud of you, George.
Congratulations, George. You have given so much to special districts in Oregon and SDAO. We just really appreciate everything you've done. Our next award category is the Outstanding Program Award for districts with 5 or fewer employees. And the award goes to Miss Birkenfield RFPD.
We live in a really unique place out here, and we work in a really unique place where the closest healthcare clinic, we're looking at about a 45 to an hour drive from our most densely populated area in our district. So there's not a lot out here for people to go if they need help.
To address the increasing need of providing health services to the local community, Mist Birkenfeld Fire District came up with an innovative program called CHIP.
A Community Health Integrated Paramedicine Program. And the intent of the program is to be a proactive community tool to be able to help people who have chronic illnesses, but also people who have been transported to the hospital through the 911 system to help them once they come home, especially in our rural, actually even in a frontier environment where we don't have any other medical services. We as the fire department are it.
Larry Boxman created the CHIP program by tapping into his past experience as Vice President of Metro West Ambulance.
When I was at Metro West Ambulance, as the Vice President, I brought a community paramedicine program into the company that was able to help a lot of residents and keep people out of hospitals and out of doctors' offices by being proactive. And it was is a very, very successful program and is one of the largest ones in the country.
Larry's first step was to approach the fire chief with the program.
He pitched me the concept of the CHIP program, explained how he had previously done one for Metro West Ambulance, and he was familiar with the types of programs across the country. So he approached me about developing one for our community, focusing it on what we have out here in our fire district and how we can provide for our community members. I thought it was phenomenal. I said we need to do whatever we can to get it going.
Once we got the ball rolling, made an initial presentation to the board of directors, and we have a 5-member board, and they were 100% supportive.
In October of 2018, the CHIP program was launched.
At first, it was a little slow. We have brochures that we sent out to everybody in our newsletter and let everybody know about the program, but people weren't sure about it. And so at any type of gathering we had in our community, there's local coffee groups that meet, the church does a lunch once a month, or where there was a gathering, I would try to speak to people about the program. And also word of mouth became very effective.
In a rural community, going to people's homes to address their medical needs can be met with a great deal of skepticism. Fortunately, the district has a number of volunteers who are well known and trusted.
We've actually had people who are very skeptical of having anyone in their house, where we'll have a volunteer who maybe isn't necessarily interested in the CHIP side. They might be a fire volunteer and they're not really into EMS or medical stuff, but they have a relationship with that person. So one gentleman that we see frequently, we got connected to him through one of our volunteers, and he actually came to the first few appointments and sat there so the gentleman could sort of get a feel for Chief Boxman and I to make sure that, we're not weirdo people coming into his house to, try to boss him around or steal anything. Because people get, when they live alone, they get a little they can get paranoid.
A program like this harkens back to days gone by when doctors would make house calls.
What's old is new again. I've said that before about this program. I mean, I think out here, this type of model is perfect. I mean, Larry mentioned we've had people come here to the station before. It's less common. I think going to someone's home, you overcome the burden of them having to leave. It's also safer. Some people who don't drive very often, it's like driving to Portland is an hour and a half one way. So asking them to do that is a lot. So I think going to someone's home, it is kind of that older style of medicine.
CHIP has proven to be a highly effective program, preventing unnecessary medical transports by catching problems before they become critical.
The feedback I've gotten from the community is all positive. Wherever I'm at, if I do encounter some of the community members, they have nothing but good things to say about the program. They actually have nothing but good things to say about all of our staff and volunteers. Everybody out here has the same mission in mind. It's just what we can provide and help our community.
It's really hard to find negatives about this program, especially from the community perspective. There's no cost to people. It's genuinely just looking out for people. And while we have recommendations on how frequently we see people or how long, that we keep going back to see people, our patients, our clients, they really can set the pace, right? So if they're like, hey, if you could come out once a month and check on myself or my loved one, that's helpful. If we're needed more often or less often, they can sort of set the pace, so it gives them a bit of control in the situation.
We're getting the people early. We're catching things that so that they can continue to live a good quality of life. And we're building confidence with people with their health care.
People deserve to have high quality of life, even if they are choosing to live in a rural area. And I think that this program helps provide a bridge for that.
Congratulations, Mr. Birkenfield RFPD. What an impactful program for your community. Now, our next award is for a special district board member that has shown great service to their district and community. This award goes to Trudy Steen with Ophir RFPD.
Trudy Steen started her public service for Curry County as a result of an encounter she had with an old friend.
I was approached by an old friend and gentleman, Bill Strawn, who was retiring from the board of directors of the fire department. And he said, Trudy, would you be interested in running for the board? We need someone on there that is really interested, and he talked me into running anyway.
Trudy ran and was elected to the Ophir Rural Fire Protection District Board of Directors.
So I was elected in 1981, and the Secretary-Treasurer was defeated in the election the next year, and I was immediately given that job, or appointed as Secretary-Treasurer of the Board of Directors.
And that launched a 40-year journey of serving her community. Trudy was born in Curry County and has never had a desire to live anywhere else. When asked what made her decide to serve as the board treasurer all these years, her reply was what you might expect from a dedicated person like Trudy.
The fire department has always been really interesting and important to me. And to be able to have a part of running that department appealed to me very much.
It was Trudy's dedication to serve and her adept organizational skills that enabled her to accomplish so much as board treasurer.
Mainly my job was taking care of the finances, all of the reports that have to go out annually, paying all the bills. I paid them when they first hit and came in. I prepared a spreadsheet on Lotus 123 early on, showing where the funds were, the checks written. The next page was the budget with the which I had prepared every year. And I had a good pattern. It's very rewarding to be able to do that. Before the chief, Adam Broughton, would get ready to spend money, he'd be on the phone, Trudy, can I? I said, yes, we've got that in the budget and we can manage it this year, you know.
Perhaps Trudy's most notable accomplishment was her long-term financial planning, allowing the department to purchase essential equipment. She provided the much-needed discipline to save for the future.
We saved $15,000 to $20,000 a year to transfer per the budget to our equipment reserve fund for a new truck. They would want to buy a pumper or something and said, can't we use it? No, that's for a new truck.
Another important aspect to Trudy's longevity as board treasurer was her relationships with the other board members.
We have a 5-member board. There's never been any controversy on anything, the majority rules, and we go forward without any disrespect towards each other if we disagree on something.
True to form as a genuine public servant, Trudy is quick to praise the people she works with.
It always makes me feel good to be a working member of the department, and I appreciate our volunteers so much. They're the ones that keep us really going, and my 4 other board members, who are Jackie Beecher, Don Kendall, Adam Broughton, and Wendy Tomko. They're the ones that got their heads together and submitted the information for this award, which I am very gratified to receive. And they are so dedicated, and I feel so fortunate to be able to work with them. I feel good all the time, but I think I feel better giving service to our community.
Congratulations, Trudy, and thank you for everything you've done for Ophir RFPD for the past 30+ years. The next award is for Outstanding Program Award for a district with 6 to 25 employees. This year's award goes to Rainbow Water District.
Small water systems have strict regulatory requirements just like larger systems, but with only a part-time or volunteer operator, keeping up with the requirements can be overwhelming. Rainbow Water District created a program to address that issue.
We call it the Rainbow Small System Support Network, if we had to come up with a name. And this is a program that's just evolved over time. It goes back to the early 90s. 1994, the community of Marcola asked Rainbow to come alongside their single operator and just provide some backup services. And about a year later, he retired, and Rainbow needed to step in and help more. And over time, that's been 27 years now, we have stepped in to oversee operations, to provide billing and bookkeeping and planning and a full function support. Our system now, this network, continues to have Marcola, but Deerhorn and Shangri-La, Shenandoah and Blue River. And so we now have 5 small systems in the Springfield area that we support outside of our boundary.
To further benefit the smaller water districts, Rainbow offers monthly training.
We are required to do OSHA mandated trainings and safety committee, and Rainbow is large enough to know some of those rules. Some of these small systems are obligated to follow the same rules, but they may not even be aware of them. And so we've invited them to participate in our meetings. And so we will do safety trainings, but then that's grown to be more of an operational discussion and some training. And our operators have a chance to share what they have learned and be mentors to these small system operators, but we have learned from them too.
They often don't know what they don't know. So with us being professional operators, licensed operators, we can coach them, help them with different problems they may have. It's actually quite rewarding to see a district that might be struggling with either water loss, meter reading techniques, treatment techniques, and having us come in and help them, coach them. We work together. It's quite rewarding.
Specialized tools are often needed to maintain or effect repairs on a water system. With a small operating budget, the cost of those tools can be prohibitive. Rainbow Water District is able to offer assistance.
It doesn't make sense for a small district to go buy, an expensive tool to do a simple project. We'll lend those tools out, and oftentimes we'll send an operator up there to coach them, to either show them how to use it, do the work for them, alongside them. It's really, it's informal in that sense. We charge for our time to do that. We typically don't even charge for that tool. At this point, we've seen almost everything from large main breaks, instrumentation falling apart, poor SCADA system. All those things, we've dealt with those, and we have some tools in our tool bag that we can help them, what might seem like a mountainous problem for them, maybe it's not that big a deal if we get in and help them.
In addition to the system support and the training and access to maintenance tools, Rainbow Water District is able to provide valuable customer service to the patrons of the smaller water districts.
Rainbow is able to offer some enhanced customer service programs to our smaller districts. And that would include things like email billing, electronic payments, ACH payments that some of the smaller districts just aren't able to offer. We also have a fully staffed office that we have regular office hours, so those smaller communities are able to contact us anytime they need something big or small, as well as able to access our after-hours service for any concerns that come up.
A direct benefit of this program is employee retention. We really believe that through this network of having a chance to mentor small system operators, there's a chance to learn and grow and share what you've learned, and we're learning from them too. And some examples would be, Rainbow system, we have concrete tanks. We have large well pumps. Some of these small systems, they may have steel tanks, vertical or horizontal. We have to know about wells ranging from 7 gallons a minute up to 1,600 gallons a minute. And so we have this wide range of equipment, treatment techniques, chlorine, phosphate, caustic soda versus soda ash. And these give interesting challenges for the operators to learn about, to experience. And then when we're working alongside these small system operators, there's a feeling of satisfaction that you're helping somebody too.
Congratulations, Rainbow Water District. The rural communities in your area are greatly benefiting from your dedication to collaboration and support. Now, the next award goes to a manager who has done outstanding work at their district. This year's award goes to Fred Schatz with Crystal Springs Water District.
Frederick Schatz was hired as the Crystal Springs Water District Superintendent in 2014. Faced with a water master plan that was woefully out of date, Fred was immediately faced with a daunting challenge.
Had a master plan done in 2015, and as a shock to the district, it went from $8 million up to $48 million from the last master plan we had. A lot of the project had been slated since the 60s and still hadn't been completed. We had been saving for some of those projects, but we couldn't save fast enough to get beyond those cost increases.
Fred faced the challenge of providing quality services to the district without overburdening the patrons with exorbitant water rates.
The need for the west side was, we had a lot of boil water notices, critical issues that arised every time there was a fire, and then customers were always on the verge of not having enough water pressure. Crystal Springs District sits in Hood River County. We serve 52 square miles of the county, mostly rural residential, fruit industry, fruit packing, processing is our major industries. We have 172 miles of main to feed about 2,600 customers. So it creates a challenge for just the size of the district. Not that many customers per mile of pipe, so it creates a little bit of a challenge in pricing our projects.
The water plan called for an additional 2 reservoirs, along with other numerous system improvements. A comprehensive rate study was the next step. Fred worked with the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Fund to come up with financing options for both reservoirs.
After looking at the $48 million plan, the next step is how do we pay for it? One of the easiest things to use with educating the board was the documentation over the years of all these projects we've been talking about, some of them since the 60s. And there was a lot of numbers from different master plans all up to the newest master plan. And it doesn't take too much to show, hey, we're getting outpaced by costs. And these costs are going to just keep going up in the volume that they have been. It's exponential. The board sought fit to implement those plans to get us the funds that we needed to operate, to get through that master plan in a timely manner.
Fred was also instrumental in acquiring the Odell Water District.
The first reservoir project we looked at was our West Side Reservoir project, which was critical for maintaining 20 psi pressures in our in our system and fire protection for our industrial areas and our residential areas. So went to Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund for funding and got the funding for the West Side Reservoir project. Shortly thereafter, we sought funding for our South Valley Reservoir project to get our capacities up to what we knew what should be our standard capacities. We had no Upper Valley water storage at all. It fit within our needs for a secondary water source. We're continually looking for other water sources to help be as resilient as we can.
Fred has shown amazing leadership and dedication to the district while aggressively working to improve the Crystal Springs water system. He has also provided expert training to the district staff.
Part of the challenges since 2014 is that we had a high retiring rate. So we've replaced the entire staff but myself. So there was a lot of challenges in that. So, you know, it did mean I took a bigger role in training all our staffing aspects. We're kind of an expensive area to move into, so bringing staff from outside can be a challenge.
The district is fortunate to have a superintendent like Frederick Schatz, who is dedicated to his job and to the community that he serves.
I feel fortunate to work in a district like this, and I enjoy the rural setting that we have, and the customers become like friend and family. So I guess I just really enjoy seeing myself stay in that type of position, that I have that ability to work with the community and work with my customers and enjoy a great place to live.
Congratulations, Fred. Thank you for your leadership and dedication to your district. The next award is for a district with greater than 26 employees, and the winner for this category is Lebanon Fire District.
Like many fire districts across the state of Oregon, Lebanon Fire District has an ongoing need for volunteers.
Historically, our fire department has been comprised of volunteer firefighters, and we've slowly moved to career firefighters, but the need of volunteers in our community is still there.
This prompted the Lebanon Fire District to do some serious brainstorming, which resulted in 2 programs.
And we looked at adding some support volunteers. What that means is they're technically not firefighters. We call them non-combat volunteers, and they assist in other functions. And so that group is called Fire Corps here at the department.
Volunteers in the Fire Corps help implement safety measures in the community by installing smoke alarms, inspecting life jackets at public lakes and pools, assisting firefighters on calls, and providing emotional help to fire victims.
When there's a structure fire, we get a tone on our phone. There's an app that we have that we see all fire calls that come through. And anything that's a first alarm, it could be a major traffic accident, it could be a structure fire. We go to the fire station. It's a rural area is where we live, and we pick up our unit and then we respond to the scene. Now once we get there, we set up a rehab area. We check with the battalion chief to find out where he'd like us, because we are usually far enough away from the fire where it doesn't affect us, but close enough to where the guys can come and get rehabbed. And we set up tables and chairs. We have a way to give them snacks or water. If they're not feeling well, they can lay down. We'd still have a gurney inside, even though there's no medicine or anything in our little unit. We have blankets. It's pretty good. We also take their vital signs to make sure that they're okay to go back in the fire.
The Fire Corps program is one of the few programs in the state of Oregon that trains volunteers in emotional support.
The emotional, practical support side of it is they're on call, and when someone dies or someone's house burns down, one of our responders will go to the scene and they'll actually talk with the families. They'll talk with the victims.
They're standing there watching their house burn, and the kids get very devastated. We have teddy bears in our little unit too, and so we bring them inside. It's warm in there. There's a place to sit. They can get away from looking at that. Try to get them to calm down. Then we try to assess whether or not they're going to be able to go in. Sometimes the fire is knocked down quickly and they can go back in maybe tomorrow or the day after, but sometimes they're going to be out and it's a complete loss. It's all about trying to make them feel a little bit better under the worst circumstances.
The other program the Lebanon Fire District launched is called the Western University Lebanon Fire Emergency Alliance Program.
A program instituted with the college through their community service learning program, where they're required to do volunteer hours, and they can do them through the fire department. And we put medical students through a full-time Firefighter 1 Academy. And so at the end of the academy, they're full-fledged volunteer firefighters for us.
The local college and the fire district partner up each year to train a select group of medical students to become certified firefighters and medical responders.
I've always been very interested in emergency medicine as a specialty that I want to go into. So I wanted to get boots on the ground experience with the first responders of what they go through and what my patients are going to go through before I see them in the hospital. And that would hopefully allow me to not only have a better understanding of what my patients go through, but also have a better relationship with the first responders because I've been in their boots, essentially. I've gotten to see what they do when they arrive on scene and what goes on in the ambulance between getting the patient and transporting them to the hospital, or just assessing the patient and determining whether or not they need to go to the hospital.
There are so many skills and equipment that you have to be knowledgeable with that I just had no idea firefighters knew. I was like, oh, they just work in emergency medical services and fight fires sometimes. Well, there's a whole other side to that. It's, utilizing chainsaws, forcible entry, carrying all the equipment, being ready for anything at any time, as far as medical calls too. So it just adds a whole huge layer to what you have to be ready for on every call.
It's also provided experience hands-on with patients, because in the first and second year of medical school you're primarily doing didactic work and we're not doing clinical rotations yet. And so this gives us a head start on seeing patients, assessing them, taking their vital signs, and getting to interact with actual patients.
These programs have had a tremendous impact on the fire district and the community.
The biggest impact is for the district and the community as a whole is that we have 8 firefighters a year that come on board that are trained firefighters that can respond to calls. And so historically you need 15 firefighters as bare minimum on scene, and as a district we have a full-time amount of 10 firefighters. So we rely on that gap. There's a 5-person gap that we rely on for our volunteer force to show up on every call, or every fire call, that is.
Congratulations, Lebanon Fire District. The WLEA program is a huge benefit to firefighters and your community. Now our next award is for an employee who has greatly served their district. And Frank, this one's kind of near and dear to my heart. I want to make sure everybody knows I didn't vote on this one, but I definitely know the person who's receiving this award tonight. The award winner is Don Bunyard with Clackamas River Water.
Don Bunyard began working for Claremont Water District, which later became Clackamas River Water, in 1984 as a waterworks mechanic.
After I got out of high school, I started working for a family-run construction company and spent about 10 years doing that. And in the early 80s, we shut the company down, and I was out of work for quite a while, and I had a family to support. And by providence, I just happened to run into a salesman I knew. He told me about a job at Claremont Water District, which is outside of Oregon City. And I went up and had an interview, just dropped in and to get an application, and had an interview with the general manager and started 2 days later.
Don's familiarity with water systems and interest in emergency preparedness came together in 2014 when he became Clackamas River Water's first emergency manager.
Because it was something that I had developed a passion for, in some of the emergency preparedness training I had had during my career, and we had a need here, and the general manager, Lee Moore, at that time asked me if I would like to do it full-time, and I think it was the best career move I ever made.
An area of increasing focus for water providers is emergency preparedness. Don's work on preparedness ensured that the Clackamas River water was ready to respond to the 2021 wildfires and ice storm.
One of the first things I did was develop a continuity of operations plan, which was grant funded for the district, and that kind of got my feet wet for grants. And there was a natural progression that seemed to occur of logical steps. Part of that was developing an emergency response plan for the district, and I had just finished updating the district's emergency response plan when the American Water Infrastructure Act was passed. And it was way more extensive than what I had just developed. So we almost took what we had and started over.
Although compliance to the Resiliency Assessment and Response Plan was required under the American Water Infrastructure Act, it was through Don's efforts that the district was able to tailor those documents to benefit the community.
The next step was the development of a natural hazard mitigation plan. So a risk and resilience assessment, a natural hazard mitigation plan, and putting those together to make it help improve our emergency response plan.
Clackamas River Water is one of the few water districts to have completed a natural hazard mitigation plan. This was no small accomplishment, considering the fact that Don was putting a great deal of time and effort to prepare for events that may or may not happen.
I felt a little bit like Chicken Little as I was talking, folks. The sky is falling, or the sky might fall. How are we going to deal with that? And so with the management team that went through that process with me, they began to understand and recognize that we really needed to do this. We needed to make it more of a priority. And so as we undertook all these planning efforts, and I was needing them to pull staff from their primary duties to a secondary duty, I began to get more and more support. As we began to deal with these real disasters, it was a wake-up call for us.
And of course, Don's foresight and expert planning skills did pay off.
There was I think it was an incident in 2015 where we had people that actually had to evacuate from their homes, and it was rewarding for me because I had people come back and say, "Thank you, we were ready." We had an idea of what we needed to do.
Don's dedicated work on the district's natural hazard mitigation plan positioned the district to respond to any type of emergency.
We got the plan approved this last year, and working with our engineering department, I believe we were just over $2 million in grant funding requests that we submitted to FEMA to help make our water system more resilient. And that was kind of the crowning moment for my career as an emergency manager, because I really, when I started here, I wanted to leave the district in better shape than what I found at, and I was really able to do that during my years as an emergency manager.
Congratulations, Don. Thank you for your many years of service to your district. Our final service award will be given to an individual who has gone above and beyond for their district as a volunteer. This year's award winner is Thomas Maddock with Mackenzie Fire and Rescue.
Thomas Maddock became a volunteer with Mackenzie Fire and Rescue January 12, 1977, and continues to maintain an active status, even though in 2021 he celebrated his 80th birthday.
I always wanted to be a fireman. And then this area was annexed into what was then called the Thurston-Walterville Fire Department. And I learned of that and went to the first training session, and I've been at it ever since.
Being a self-employed machinist by trade, Thomas had the freedom to devote himself to Mackenzie Fire and Rescue when, of course, he wasn't bicycling through Spain, France, and other European countries.
since I was my own boss, I was free to leave at any time, and my first shop was actually just up the road from the main station here, so responding to a call was quite easily. I even came on my bicycle because I rode to work often.
On September 7th, 2021, a fire broke out in the Willamette National Forest, which grew to one of the largest wildfires in the state of Oregon, burning over 173,000 acres. It was called the Holiday Farm Fire. Thomas was one of the volunteers to respond to that fire.
I responded with another volunteer in a Type 6 truck. We got just a little bit east of Blue River and encountered a small fire, maybe 50 yards in diameter or so. We stopped and attacked that fire, and at the time we were just about done and I was reeling up the hose. I glanced down the valley and there was a fire easily 100 times larger than what we had just put out. So I yelled at my partner, I said, "Come on, Ken, we got to go down and see if we can keep that fire from crossing the road." Before we could leave where we were, that fire was across the road, and it seemed like the whole valley was on fire. A call came to go assist some folks who were trapped in their driveway. So we turned around and headed east. We were the nearest unit to that. We headed east and we were met with a wall of fire that seemed to be spanning the valley. I think the most frightening thing that's ever happened to me in my life was seeing that wall of fire coming right at us and then turning around and fleeing. It became obvious right away that where we were was soon not going to be a safe place to be. So I suggested that we go to the community track, which is a large, open, green area. So we went there, we broke open the gates and drove onto the center of the track, and many residents also saw us there, and they came there as well. I don't know how many people actually ended up being there, but there were lots of people, lots of cars, and that became our command post until we started getting the assignments to, ours was to go to the Mormon church and the school. We worked on those two areas all night, and by morning the hydrants were dry. We had used all of the water in the Blue River water system.
Many residents were forced to evacuate their homes, quickly taking whatever valuables they could lay their hands on.
After the initial fire had calmed down, we were called by many people saying that they had left their animals, and could we feed them? Could we feed your dogs? Will you feed my cat?
It quickly became a daily routine, traveling up and down Highway 126, caring for livestock and pets.
We fed cats, dogs, pigs, horses, goats, rabbits, and chickens. There were more chickens in this valley than I ever knew. There were more chickens than any other animal put together.
Thomas has a deep love of family, community, and the district. His contribution of time, energy, and resources to the Mackenzie Fire and Rescue are immeasurable.
Being a volunteer fireman for 45 years has been a very rewarding experience. I've been doing this for now over half my life. And I realized that doing this has allowed me to help other people. I'm sure that every time we go on a call, be it a motor vehicle accident or a house fire or a field fire, the people who are involved, who have called us, are thankful that we show up. So that has been a rewarding experience to be able to help people in that manner.
Congratulations, Thomas. What a great asset you are to Mackenzie Fire and Rescue. Frank, these stories we get to see about our award winners are truly inspiring. It's always the highlight of my year to be involved in this process.
Todd, I couldn't agree more. We do have one final award to present, the SDAO Extraordinary Staff Service Award. This award was created last year by our association's board of directors to recognize an SDAO staff person that has really gone above and beyond while keeping our members as their main focus. This award winner has dedicated over 10 years at SDAO, specifically in our risk management and underwriting departments. His knowledge of insurance mixed with his unique ability to bring people together has made a big difference at SDAO, especially for our staff. His work has been primarily behind the scenes, making sure that our districts are insured against catastrophic losses while keeping the insurance pool running smoothly. This person has dealt with some personal challenges over the last years, but he has never wavered from being dedicated to our association and those that it serves. This year's Extraordinary Staff Service Award goes to Underwriting Manager Kevin Party. Thank you and congratulations, Kevin.
Congratulations, Kevin, and thank you for all of your hard work. Your contributions have made a huge impact on our membership.
Well, this brings our awards ceremony to a close. Thanks to all of you that submitted a nomination to our awards committee. I can only imagine how difficult it is for the committee members to choose the award recipients among so many great submissions. And thanks to all of you for joining us for this presentation as we honored our award winners. We also appreciate you being so flexible and patient with us as we've transitioned our conference from a hybrid format to a fully virtual event. We're all greatly disappointed that we could not have a chance to meet together in person, but again, feel fortunate that we still had the ability to offer this event to all of you. I also want to take one final chance to thank our conference sponsors. These sponsors stuck with us and stayed committed to supporting our members and this event. We could not have put this conference on without you. As mentioned earlier, we will be working hard to plan a one-day training and networking event later this year that will be a great chance to celebrate being together again. We will be using this opportunity to honor this year's award winners in person.
We hope to see you there at one of our other trainings we have planned, or the 2023 conference in Sun River. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for joining us for our conference.